We talk a lot about peaceful resistance here on this show, things you're not allowed to do and things you might want to do even though you're not allowed. One of them is that the Confederate flag has been banned in Los Angeles, a place that many people would call freedom-oriented. Well, not so much if you want to wave your Confederate flag. But not just that. We've got bigger stories about people who are pulled over for not having a bike light, then arrested for having a gun. That was right here in New Hampshire. One of Free Stater, Porcupine community member. We'll talk about that from the union leader. Plus, the Huey P. Newton Gun Club leads an open carry rally in South Dallas. Christopher Hitchens went on his very own victimless crime spree in 2004. The feds have banned a school's beloved pink cookie. Gucci Mane jailed for 3+ years for gun ownership. Plus, she accused her husband of downloading child porn, and now she has the felony. All these stories and your thoughts, you can also Skype into the program by sending a contact request to Peace News Now. That'll be accepted, and then we'll put you on the air. Let's get started with our first story today. The Confederate flag banned in California, where the LA Times reports the California Assembly on Monday passed legislation that would ban the state from selling or displaying the Confederate flag or any similar image, with Republican gubernatorial candidate Tim Donnelly casting the sole vote in opposition. Just one guy? Seriously? Is that all there is in Congress for people promoting freedom? Not saying Confederate flag is for freedom, but if you're for free speech, you've got to be for people being allowed to fly whatever kind of flag they want. Nazi flag, KKK flag. You got to be able to fly whatever freak flag you want. Donnelly of Twin Peaks near Lake Arrowhead said the bill violated the First Amendment, ding, 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 and, quote, would silence free speech. Big surprise. Well, thank you, Donnelly, for being the only politician in California's assembly to have his head screwed on straight. Quote, we shouldn't be here picking the kind of speech that we like. I abhor racism, but the concept that in a country that was founded on the right of free speech, that we're going to ban certain types of speech is antithetical to the First Amendment. This is exactly what the First Amendment is about. And when I was a kid growing up, hearing about the Bill of Rights and how important the First Amendment and all these secured rights are, I thought, well, yeah, duh. Doesn't everyone know that free speech is totally sacred, is totally important, that without free speech, society would crumble into tyrannical regimes? No. Not everyone does know that. It's one of those things that needs a constant reminder. You might not need a constant reminder, but if you're one of those people who has this thought always in the back of your head, like, hey, just because I don't like what someone's saying doesn't mean they don't have a right to say it. Free speech is more important than that. Then you've got to be one of these voices standing up when policymakers are looking to ban a particular type of fabric. It's ridiculous. Quote, I'm not standing here defending the symbol, he said. I'm standing here defending the principle that the First Amendment should apply in all state buildings of all places. The legislation passed 72-1 and now heads to the state Senate for consideration. Well, likely if something passes in the House, that overwhelmingly the Senate is going to move along with it as well. Assemblyman Isidore Hall III, he's a Democrat from Compton, said the battle flag of the Confederacy is a symbol of racism, exclusion, oppression, and violence toward many Americans. That's interesting because I view the American flag as a symbol of exclusion, oppression, and violence towards peaceful people. So maybe that should be banned. Quote, its symbolism and history is directly linked to the enslavement, torture, and murder of millions of Americans through the mid-19th century, Hall said. Even today, its public display is designed to instill fear, intimidation, and a direct threat of violence toward others. Well, maybe that's what he's reading into it. Symbols do have meaning, right? And they're supposed to convey a message. Maybe the symbol of the Confederacy really isn't conveying the message that freedom-loving people want. Say, if you're a freedom-loving person, you love to fly the Confederate flag, you know, I get that it's not about racism, but Mr. Hall here He's a politician pretty high up, a Democrat from Compton, some assemblyman. The average person thinks the Confederate flag is about racism. I get it, it's not. But that's what the average person thinks. And if symbols are going to have meaning, it's like putting a swastika up there and saying, "Oh, it means peace." Like, well, okay, I get it. In Buddhist, or Hinduism or whatever symbol where it comes from, yeah, it might have meant peace. It might have meant, something wonderful, love. But today it has a different symbol, has a different meaning. So I get it. Yeah, the Confederate flag might stand for freedom in your mind, but it stands for something nasty in a lot of other people's minds. Now, does that mean it should be banned? Of course not. Got to stand up for even hate speech, even though the worst speech. The answer to hate speech is more speech. So if you see someone with a Confederate flag, maybe get your own gay flag out, wave that around, or whatever sort of freak flag you fly. Hall filed the bill after his mother, during a visit, saw a replica of a Confederate money being sold at the state capitol in Sacramento. An image of the Confederate flag is on those bills. Oh, I see. So some politicians said we should ban Confederate symbols after his mother went to the Capitol in Sacramento and saw a Confederate flag on a bill being sold. Please. Talk about busybodyism and protectionism. This guy, oh, my mother saw something she doesn't like, and now I have to ban everybody. Talk about making the world safer, nerfing the world. I mean, are we going to put foam mattresses all over everything? Just keep everything safe, make sure no one gets hurt, cover all the displays over with tarps so no one can see the art because it might have a history that people don't like. And anyone with slavery symbolism, those statues should be covered up because that's bad. Remind people of bad things that stood for slavery. Republican Donald P. Wagner, Republican in Irvine, spoke in support of the measure. He said that contrary to Donnelly's concern that the legislation would infringe upon free speech, the bill was limited to the state's commercial conduct and, quote, was tailored in a way that was entirely appropriate. It would pass First Amendment muster. Or so he says. So these politicians, they come up with these rules written hundreds of years ago. Then they say, you all agreed to these, right? And then they try and pass new laws totally exempting the original ones. Oh, gosh, it just makes no sense. So, all right, Confederate flag banned. That was an interesting story. These politicians think they can do whatever they want and that free speech is not important.